The couple who had hired strangely and behaving restlessly. To understand the reason behind this odd behavior, they decided to install a security camera in their home. One night, the dog unexpectedly attacked the babysitter. When the couple watched the footage, they were horrified. What they saw made them call the police without wasting a second. Howard and Cheryl had been together for nearly 10 years when they found out they were expecting a baby. But this journey had not been easy for them. They had tried to have a child for years, but the difficulties they faced left them feeling hopeless. Cheryl struggled to accept the possibility of never becoming a mother, while Howard felt helpless watching his wife's sorrow. In an effort to make her happy, he decided to adopt a loving and loyal dog. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and click the notification bell for more amazing stories. Over time, this little friend became an irreplaceable part of their family. When Howard brought the dog home to Cheryl, she was overjoyed. They named their adorable companion Mittens and raised him with love. Years passed, but the couple never gave up on their dream of having a child. One day, Howard noticed that Mittens was behaving strangely. Normally a calm dog, he started following Cheryl around the house, whining anxiously at the door. Howard thought he might be sick and examined him carefully, but there were no visible health problems. He didn't know the reason for this behavior yet, but one thing was certain: Mittens was trying to tell them something. A short while later, Cheryl took a pregnancy test, and she couldn't believe her eyes when she saw the result. It was positive. Overcome with joy, she ran to Howard and hugged him with tears of happiness. The moment they had been waiting for all these years had finally arrived. But the most astonishing part of it all was that Mittens seemed to have sensed it before they did. The dog had detected Cheryl's pregnancy and had been acting on his instinct to protect her. However, this was not the only surprise waiting for the couple. Months later, Cheryl gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Everything seemed perfect until the shocking event that changed everything. They named their baby Sky, a tribute to Mittens' bright blue eyes. As Cheryl and Howard adjusted to their new life, they realized they couldn't always keep an eye on their daughter due to their busy work schedules, so they decided to hire a babysitter to care for her during the mornings. Choosing a babysitter wasn't difficult. Cheryl's best friend, Wanda, happily volunteered to take on this responsibility. They trusted her completely and believed that Sky was in safe hands. However, Mittens' restless behavior soon suggested that things were not as they seemed. Wanda had always been an important part of Cheryl and Howard's lives. She had helped with their wedding plans and even assisted them in their house hunting process. So the couple unanimously agreed that she was the best person to care for Sky. They were grateful to have an extra helping hand, and everything seemed to be going well. But Mittens didn't agree. The protective instincts he had shown since Sky's birth remained unchanged despite the arrival of the babysitter. He was still restless, always on high alert, and became even more uneasy whenever Wanda was around. At first, they thought it was just an adjustment period, but the truth was far more disturbing. Mittens continued to guard Sky at night. He refused to leave the baby's side and constantly begged to stay in her room. Cheryl and Howard found this behavior odd. They had expected their dog to calm down after Sky's birth, but instead he had become even more anxious. At first, they ignored it, thinking it was just temporary. But Mittens' worried eyes, sleepless nights, and constant vigilance began to bother Howard. After a week, he started to suspect that this behavior was no coincidence. Something was truly wrong. Mittens had become obsessively protective of Sky. He never left her side and stayed on guard at all times. Meanwhile, Wonder frequently complained that the dog wouldn't let her near the baby when Cheryl and Howard were not home. But the couple didn't pay much attention to this. 2 months after Sky was born, Cheryl and Howard were growing frustrated with Mittens. They were exhausted by his endless restlessness. They believed their dog was simply jealous, but the truth was far more serious. Cheryl and Howard loved Mittens dearly, but his increasingly anxious behavior was becoming unsettling. Sky's safety was their top priority, and they knew they had to make a decision. However, before they could even discuss it, an unexpected night arrived. Howard had planned a surprise for Cheryl. Wonder would watch the baby, so the couple could enjoy a night out together. But when it was time to leave, Cheryl felt uneasy. An unexplainable sense of anxiety filled her. Leaving Sky behind had never felt this difficult before. Cheryl was grateful for Wonder's help. However, as she and Howard stepped out the door, Mittens suddenly started barking at Wonder. He wasn't just barking, he was howling in distress. For a moment, Cheryl hesitated, almost changing her mind. But she took a deep breath and convinced herself that Mittens was just adjusting to the new routine. Reminding herself that she needed to trust Wonder, she closed the door and left with Howard. But Mittens still didn't stop. That night, for the first time in a long while, the couple relaxed and enjoyed their date, feeling reassured that Sky was in safe hands. However, in the middle of dinner, their phone rang. Wonder was calling in a panic. She needed them to come home immediately. Apparently, Mittens had tried to bite her. She had attempted to put him in his crate, but he reacted aggressively. Howard and Cheryl canceled their date and rushed home. When they arrived, they found a crying baby, a distressed dog, and a shaking Wonder. Shortly after, Wonder left the house, visibly upset. As soon as she was gone, Cheryl turned her attention to Mittens. She noticed the deep concern in his eyes. Mittens was trying to tell them something. Mittens' behavior had been strange indeed, but the moment Wonder left, he suddenly calmed down. Cheryl and Howard watched in shock as their dog walked straight to Sky's room. It was clear that things couldn't continue like this. If Mittens didn't change, they wouldn't be able to keep him at home. So, they decided to discuss the situation with a clear mind the next day and went to bed. The next morning, Howard remembered something. He had installed security cameras in the house a few months ago. Maybe they could find out what had really happened that night. Without wasting any time, he sat at his computer and started watching the footage of Mittens and Wonder. Howard hoped to find a clue that would explain the dog's strange behavior. But what he saw left him frozen in shock. Wonder, the person they trusted the most, was not who she seemed. The footage revealed that Wonder was involved with an illegal group. These individuals were part of a criminal organization that shared horrifying images of children on the dark net. As Howard watched the horrific scenes unfold, he immediately called the police. Law enforcement launched a full-scale operation, arresting Wonder and dozens of others linked to her. Investigations uncovered a vast amount of illegal data. Cheryl and Howard were in disbelief. How could they have trusted their best friend so blindly? But one thing was certain. Mittens had been right all along. His vigilance and loyalty had kept Sky safe. And now, he wasn't just a pet, he was a hero. Mittens had not only saved Sky, but had also prevented many other children from falling into danger. Thanks to him, criminals were caught and further harm was avoided. From that day forward, he returned to his normal self. Cheryl and Howard, however, learned an important lesson. They would never again ignore their dog's unusual behavior. Binding bonds through beautiful tales. Thank you for watching.